EMEA 6, there were a total of 19 draft resolutions that were being discussed. All of these resolutions typically focused around the three planetary crises that the world is right now going through. So it's land degradation, biodiversity loss and pollution. A resolution on ending plastic pollution across the life cycle of plastics was actually passed, and the world is right now discussing about how do we tackle the issue of plastic pollution across the globe and across the life cycle of plastics. Globally, all the plastic production contributes anywhere between 5 to 7% to the overall greenhouse gas emissions, which also has a very strong climate connect. It also has a very strong biodiversity loss connect if you actually look at it, because of the marine litter, most of it which is plastic. As many as 25,000 chemicals in our plastic products. On an average, any plastic product that you use has anywhere between 20 to 25 chemicals in it. About 40% of these chemicals, which have been studied by the United Nations, are not really known. They're not disclosed by the big companies or the plastic industry itself, right? And there are about 30% of the chemicals which are known to have human health impacts, but we're not really talking about them enough. A mere 1 to 2% of all the chemicals that are used by the plastic industry are actually regulated by other multilateral environmental agreements like the Stockholm or the Rotterdam conventions. In India, we have a single-use plastic ban in force, which typically talks about just 19 items, single-use plastic items, which range from plastic sticks to cutleries, crockery that are made of single-use plastics, some kind of wrapping packaging films. But if you actually look at it, the industry said that of all the primary plastic that is produced in the country, the ban only covers about 2 to 3% of all the plastic that is produced, right? It has been more than 1.5 years, but we are still continuing to produce, use, manufacture, distribute all the single-use plastics, most of the single-use plastics that basically have been banned. The brand owners are the one who create this demand for primary plastic packaging, because they don't want to kind of look out for alternatives. They don't want to package their products in an alternative packaging, which will add to the cost and eventually passed on to the consumer, right? So that's one part of the problem, that brand owners continue to use plastics for packaging which are designed for disposal. They're not designed for recycling, they're not designed for refurbishing. India is a country of more than 1.4 billion people. Per capita usage of plastic, or rather generation of plastic waste, is anywhere between 13 to 15 kilograms per year per person in India. That means on an average we are every year we are consuming about 21 million metric tons of primary plastic. Of this, according to the Central Pollution Control Board, the latest figures for plastic waste generation is just 4.1 million metric tons, which is less than about 40 to 45% of all the primary plastics that were produced. Now, this number is does not really match to how much we are consuming, because if you go back a few years, in 2015 the CPCB said that we are producing as a country 9.1 million metric tons of waste. The CPCB also said that the per capita waste generation in the country has doubled in the last 5-6 years, but the waste generation figures have gone down by more than 50%, which means that our numbers around plastic waste generation are not really reliable. They may be authentic because they are coming from government sources, but they are not really reliable. So we need studies to actually estimate how much are we generating. I think it's not very difficult for us as a country to go back to reuse systems which were very prevalent in India even while I was growing up. So it's not something that we are talking about like 50 years down the line. It's more like they were very recent things that were happening, but due to the make, use and throw linear economy model that we've basically embraced, this entire system of disposing after you use a certain product has become the real challenge, right? Now, if we actually kind of convince our industries to go back to the model of reuse, I think that is a very important discussion and conversation that the policy makers and the decision makers should be having with the industry counterparts.